Once again, I'm back doing another video about what's going on in my community, the government, and of course the corrupt mainstream media. Today, I want to focus on what's going on in Columbus with the governor of our state, John Kasich. The former Fox News host, former congressman, had won in 2010 against the incumbent Democrat Ted Strickland. Now, as the Republican governor, he decides to do what the Wisconsin governor Scott Walker is doing. He's going to go ahead and end collective bargaining for public sector and labor union workers. So as I begin, I'm going to take you to one of his most not pleasant moments when he got into an encounter with a police officer in Columbus, and he said something that might piss off the Fraternal Order of Police.
Look, there's a way to say, I think maybe we can get there, or here, sign this paper and get me these documents. I mean, there's just a way to deal with people. The kind of way I deal with you here today, right? I can come in here and blah, 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 but I'm not selling. You have to sell a little bit, even though that's part of what people have a hard time with. Think about this. Have you ever been stopped by a policeman who was an idiot? I had this idiot pull me over on 315. Listen to this story. He says to me, he says, you passed this emergency vehicle on the side of the road and you didn't yield. I said, I didn't, officer, what are you kidding? I didn't see any, I didn't even see where the heck was it? And the last thing I would ever do would be to pass an emergency, are you kidding me? He says, well, I understand that. Give me your license. Goes back to the car, comes back, gives me a ticket, says you must report to court. If you don't report to court, we're putting a warrant out for your arrest. He's an idiot. We just can't act that way. And what people resent are people who are in the government who don't treat the client with respect. Maybe that's another thing we have to think about, right?
The current governor of the state, John Kasich, is an example of the anger that's lashed out among the Democratic Party. With the Tea Party movement and the extreme elements of the conservative movement combined together to send the Democratic Party a message that they are tired of the spending, they're tired of the so-called socialism, and they're not approving of the president's agenda when it comes to healthcare reform, banking reform, and the stimulus. They voted the current extravagant Democratic Party, which is basically the establishment Democrats, out, and as well as the conservative Democrats who didn't support their agenda anyway. Ted Strickland was one of those Democratic governors who was defeated against John Kasich. Of course, John Kasich being propped up by the Tea Party and Fox News. Right now, he's in a bad situation. He's right now like Scott Walker of Wisconsin and Rick Scott of Florida. They're trying to end collective bargaining rights for union and labor workers who are part of the state. This is not faring well with the people in the unions, and now they're protesting against the governors of many of the Republican-led states because they don't want their rights to be taken away for private interest. Scott Walker, for example, is one of those Republican stalwarts who finally got himself in the news because he's the first to lead the way in this ending collective bargaining for unions, and also potential presidential candidate Chris Christie is thinking about doing the same, and many other Republican governors are cheering him on. Governor Kasich, for example, turned down high-speed rail. He's going to eventually cut domestic spending programs, and he also is going to try to balance the budget by taking advantage of these tax cuts that was passed in 2010 by the majority Democratic Congress. Now, I just think to myself, Republicans are not going to work with President Obama regardless of what he does. And Ohio is a pivotal state. We just lost 2 congressional seats. Ohio was carried by Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Ohio is a swing state, as well as Florida, Iowa, Nevada, and New Hampshire. I just think that when we come to this conclusion that our society is totally stupid when it comes to politics, religion, sexuality, and all this other stuff, it just makes you wonder, why is our country so focused on things that don't involve them? What Governor Kasich's going to do, he's going to take away the union bargaining rights for state workers, and then, of course, he's going to face an outlandish backlash because the Republicans are in control of the state house and they're in control of the congressional districting, and it's not going to really help the Democrats or the liberal base. Even though Governor Kasich may have said some stupid comments about the police officer and he probably pissed off the Fraternal Order of Police, he's still going to be around. He's got almost 3 years to go. We'll see how it goes. I mean, after all, Fox News has got his back, and whatever Fox News does is going to help a Republican hurt a Democrat. So, as I end this video, I want y'all to understand that I'm going in a new direction. I'm not going to always criticize Republicans, and I'm not always going to support the Democratic Party. I'm going to take an independent stance on most issues, and I'm going to focus on things that involve my community, the government, and of course the corrupt mainstream media. To thousands of people who supported me, I always say thank you again.
As always, thanks for viewing. You can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianBeach. You can friend me on Facebook at TalkToBrianBeach, or you can visit my blog at sociallyblogwords.blogspot.com.